Hey guys, what's up? It's Emily. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I put out new videos every Tuesday and Friday. I do mostly book content here, the little lifestyle, travel stuff peppered in. I'm an actor, I'm a singer, and I live in Brooklyn, and I just recently hit 1,000 subscribers, so thank you to everyone that has subscribed and has been watching my videos. I really appreciate it. It's very exciting. Okay, so this is my reading wrap up for November. You know, I'm not a full-time booktuber. If I was, I'd probably read anywhere from like 15 to 20 books a month, but I just don't have the time to do that because I have my own business and I have to make my money and work on that. So I typically read like anywhere between like 6 and 8 books a month, but November I read 11 books total, which is the most I've read in a month so far. So that's very exciting. And if you guys keep watching, keep subscribing and all that stuff, and I could do booktube full time, maybe I can do that every month. November was a really exciting reading month. A big reason that I read so many books is A, because I did the 24-hour reading challenge, so I read 5 books in a pretty short amount of time during that. And then I also discovered Spotify audiobooks. I believe I did 3 audiobooks, and I don't usually do audiobooks. I have like mixed feelings on them. I did check a few out, which I will be sharing with you. Last month's TBR. So I had 6 books on last month's TBR, and I've read 5 of them. And I'm reading the 6th one now. I'm reading Powerless now. I'm hoping to finish it today. It's going by really quickly, but I obviously will include that in my December reading wrap up because I'm not done with it yet. We have 5 books from the TBR. We have 3 audiobooks. The rest, I think, are physical copies. So I'm going to go through chronologically how I read these books. So the first book I have is Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld. This I read in my 24-hour reading challenge. It's about this girl, Sally. I forget their names so quickly. And she's a sketch writer for like kind of like an SNL type variety show that happens every Saturday in New York. They might as well have just called it SNL, but probably couldn't for copyright reasons. She has this whole thing where she's like, men that kind of like are average looking can date women that are super hot, but the reverse never happens. Which is kind of like, I don't know, not my favorite basis for a book to start out with. I think it's just a little like reductive, I don't know. It's divided basically into 3 chapters. The first chapter was awful for me. Like it was literally just like so much description, not a lot of dialogue, and you basically go Monday through Saturday. It kind of like tracks like by what time it is through this experience of having this famous singer as like the host on the show. It was just the way it was written did not click with me. I almost DNF'd it. My toxic trait is that like I don't DNF books, and I almost did this one, but I was like, let me see, because the second chapter is through emails like this, written through emails, and I was like, if dialogue's what I'm missing, maybe that will work. The second chapter was really cool. I like the second chapter a lot. I'd probably give it like a 4 out of 5. The third chapter was good. It was better than the first. It moved more quickly. It kind of chronicles like her back and forth with this guy, Noah Brewster, who's like this famous singer, essentially, throughout like a few years' time. I would give this a 3.5 out of 5. It was not my favorite. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Like, I know it's called romantic comedy, but like there's a lot of other rom-coms that I enjoyed, even like just this month, like so much more than this. Not horrible. I know a lot of people really like it, but it just wasn't a book that necessarily like super clicked with me. So that was the first book I read. Then in my 24-hour reading challenge, the second book I read was the first book in the Natural series. This was the quickest read ever. Like if you're looking to get out of a reading slump, like these books are so quick. They're like a YA Criminal Minds with like these teenagers that solve these serial killer cases basically. Even though it's YA, I would check the trigger warnings on this. That goes for all books, honestly. This one is like, it kind of has some imagery that like I just wasn't expecting like a YA book to have. This girl Cassie, she's a natural at like reading people and like profiling people. She kind of gets into this program with a bunch of other teenagers with natural abilities. Like, you know, someone can tell if someone's lying or not, and they can lie really well, and another person can like read emotionally. So they just kind of have these natural gifts that are really helpful in solving murder mysteries. I think I gave this a 4 out of 5. It wasn't like my absolute favorite book, but like it was super fun and it moved really quickly. It's very like found family, and all the characters are really cute. I knew exactly who each character was within like 2 lines of their first intro, just because they were like so well developed and like how they speak and how they move and all this stuff. So yeah, 4 out of 5, The Naturals.
And then
I was going to read The Naturals all the way through, but I'm trying this new thing with series where I don't read all the books in a row because I think it actually ends up putting me in a bit of a reading slump because it's too much of the same thing. I feel like to feel momentum reading, like I just need a little bit more like variety and like mixing it up as I go. So I put The Naturals down for a second and I read The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, I think. This book is like everywhere. Everyone's obsessed with this book, and rightfully so. I'm not a huge, I read a lot of them, but like, and I say this all the time, and then I'm like, I end up really liking a lot of like rom-com, like romance books, but I actually really, really like this one, like, and I think I gave it a 5 out of 5 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. It's about this girl, Clementine, who like inherited her aunt's apartment in New York City, and she meets this guy in the apartment. He exists 7 years in the past. It's kind of about their relationship and how that like time difference plays a part in their relationship, I guess. And it's just so well written. It's such a quick read. It's so fun. You just fall in love with both of the characters. I really, really, really enjoyed this, and I gave it a 5 out of 5. And the cover is super cute, so we love that. My third book in the 24-hour reading challenge was the second book in the Natural series, which was Killer Instinct. I think I gave this one a 4 out of 5 as well. This one was also very, very fast. It was a little longer than the first one. Honestly, like same sentiment as the first book. Super quick read. You know the characters even more now because it's the second book. Each book kind of has this mystery, kind of a build up and, you know, a plot twist and all that stuff. They're really fun to read, and it's fun to kind of guess what's going on. Again, like great reading slump book recommendation. The fifth book I read in the 24-hour reading challenge was When in Rome by Sarah Adams. Practice Makes Perfect, the second book of the duology, is on my TBR this month, and I'm very excited to read it. It's a bit of like a spin-off. This is about this like pop star, Amelia. She's burning out. Like she needs a break. She decides to go to Rome, Kentucky because her favorite movie is Roman Holiday. So she's like, I don't have time to go to Rome, Italy, but I'll go to Rome, Kentucky, and like just kind of get away. And it's this very small town vibe. She ends up meeting this guy who owns a pie shop. It's very much like Hallmark movie vibes, but like good. I enjoy this book so much. I'll give this a 4 out of 5. I'd probably give it a 4.5 out of 5, honestly. Like this was really fun. It was very quick. I think the difference between these two is that I felt this one was a way more like original idea, whereas this one was just kind of like classic rom-com. But I really, really love the characters, and they were so well developed. I feel like the 5 books I read in the 24-hour reading challenge that I did were all amazing books to get you out of a reading slump, which I was kind of in a little bit. Recommend them all for getting out of reading slump. That ends my 24-hour reading challenge wrap up. Then I listened to my first audiobook, which was The Woman in Me by Britney Spears, narrated by Michelle Williams. This was amazing. I am kind of on the Destiny Sidwell train of like not rating biographies or memoirs specifically, because it's like, how can you like rate someone's life and like what they're sharing about their life? It feels a little like odd, but like 5 out of 5. You get her side of the story. It's really like insane what is shown on the surface of celebrity culture and like what's actually happening. Michelle Williams was the perfect person to narrate this audiobook. Memoirs, I feel like, are kind of the only genre that for me, like 100% of the time, work as an audiobook. Fiction, self-help, that's like hit or miss audiobook wise, but memoirs, audiobook, we love. I didn't realize that like she took classes at like Broadway Dance Center as a kid here in New York. Her and Natalie Portman understudied, I think it was like Laura Bell Bundy in like an off-Broadway show when they were kids. So like she has like a real history of really like working as like a theater kid and a dancer and a singer, and you know, like she's really talented, and I feel like a lot of people just kind of like look past that, and I can't recommend it enough. It's Britney's biography, like you just have to read it. The next book that I did was also an audiobook, and I actually really enjoyed this audiobook for fiction. I listened to Checkmate by Allie Hazelwood. I feel like audiobook narrators can either elevate where a book is, or it can kind of like lower the book. So I feel like in this case it was elevated. I really, really enjoyed the audiobook version of this. Again, super quick, felt really connected to the characters. I liked it. I would definitely recommend it. I would recommend the audiobook, honestly. Like I really enjoyed listening to it. Then I did My Dark Vanessa. This one, yeah, check check the trigger warnings on this one. This is about this young woman who in like 2000 or something had an affair with her English teacher who was like 42 when she was like 15 or 16 at her boarding school. It goes back and forth between 2000 and then 2017 when somebody who went to school kind of after her comes out and has like this allegation towards this man for assaulting her and all of this stuff. And so it really is just like a story from her point of view. What was really interesting is I think I read that Kate Elizabeth Russell, who, by the way, this is her first book, which is insane. I think that like she had been working on this for a while, and a lot of the feedback that she got was like, it shouldn't be told from Vanessa's perspective. Like, it should be told, no one's gonna like it if it's told from her perspective. It should be told from the professor's perspective, or like back and forth. And she just didn't listen to that. And I think that's, thank God. Walking through this experience from Vanessa's perspective is just so revealing of like what it's actually like and how the gaslighting like really works. As I'm reading it, you get in her mind and like you understand like why she kind of takes the stance that she does all these years later. I don't want to give anything away, but like it was so beautifully written. Definitely hard to read at points. For the type of story that it is, like it was pretty fast moving. I gave it a 5 out of 5. If you could handle the content material, I would 100% recommend reading it, especially like winter months, depressing book. Let's go. Then I finally did it. In November, I read the summer book of the year, Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is definitely my favorite Emily Henry book. I'm not like the hugest Emily Henry fan, like don't hate me. I don't know what it is about it. I just never felt like super connected to her stuff. It's good. I've read all of her books. They're not bad books. I just never felt like a super personal connection to any of them. This one was definitely my favorite. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5. It's about, I'm sure everyone knows what this is about, but it's about this couple who has broken up, and they've been broken up for 6 months, but they haven't told their friend group. Their friend group gets together, they think that they're still together, and they have to like pretend that they are. So fake dating trope, I guess, is what's going on in this. And like you really fall in love with like their friend group and the different people in it. I felt more connected to it. I love the 3 girls, like the 3 best friends. It gave like Mamma Mia vibes a little bit. Emily Henry rocks. You should read this book. Maybe not in November like I did, but also like I like reading books kind of like off season. Like yes, it's fun to like sink into it and be like, it's November, I'm gonna read My Dark Vanessa, but then it's also nice to like palate cleanse with a nice like summer read because you've got to keep it in balance. Definitely my favorite Emily Henry book. Then I listened to, because I really want to read the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, which I can't believe I haven't read this yet, but they recommended, and by they I mean the booktube community, says that you can or cannot read the Caraval series trilogy before reading Once Upon a Broken Heart. It does take place allegedly in the same world. Rules about the world are kind of like established in that trilogy, but you don't have to read it. I listened to this audiobook, and this is one of the circumstances where I think the audiobook might have lowered my experience listening to this book. This book did not hit for me at all. I feel like the last maybe half hour of listening to it, I was like, cool. It kind of set me up to want to just like bite the bullet and like read the other 2 books. But if I read the other 2 books, I will definitely be like reading them. I will not be listening to the audiobook. A lot of it took me out of it, the way that it was narrated. It's about this girl, Scarlett, who has been wanting to go to this like thing called Caraval for her whole life. I don't even know how to describe this book, honestly. Yeah, so like she has this sister, Donatella, who she calls Tella, and like a really evil dad. And in like this arranged marriage, she has her dream of seeing Caraval, which is like a once-a-year performance where the audience kind of like participates in the show. So she ends up going for the first time. Like she finally gets her invitation to Caraval, and then she realizes that Donatella, her sister, has been taken. Whoever finds Donatella is like the winner of Caraval. And it's just kind of about like what's real, what's fake, what's performance, what's reality. I find all of that very interesting just like as an actor myself and as a performer myself. But yeah, I really do think like if I read this book physically, I would have a different rating for it. I gave it a 3 out of 5. So I'm gonna read Legendary, the next book. Maybe Finale, like if I want to, and I'll let you know how that is. If there's any difference in like the writing style when I'm actually reading it. Caraval, 3 out of 5. And then my last book that I read this month was Iron Flame, which I did a full reading vlog for if you want to check that out. It was spoiler free, but I did kind of speak in code, so you get like my reactions. If you have read it, like you understand what I'm reacting to, if that makes sense. Iron Flame is a very anticipated sequel to Fourth Wing, very popular book series. I probably don't need to say much else about it. I did give it a 5 out of 5. It is so well crafted. On like the tier of 5-star reads, it's definitely the tier of like an obligatory 5-star, just on the basis of like this book is really well written and really complex. The characters are all so developed. I just still don't feel this like incredible emotional connection that I feel like everybody else feels. The hype around it has definitely affected my own relationship to it. The beginning was a little slow. It was a little like recappy, expositional. It's a little over 600 pages, but it did go pretty fast. I recommend the series just because it's like you've got to like be part of it. It's a cultural phenomenon now. Like you have to know what's going on. I don't want to really say what this is about because it's the second book of a series and I don't want to like spoil the first one if you haven't read it, but I definitely recommend both of the books. The spice scenes I think were better in this one than the first one. Iron Flame. Those are the 11 books I read in November. Let me know if you've read any of them or if you have any opinions about any of them. God, December, it's exhausting. I hope everyone's having a great December. Thank you guys so much for watching, for subscribing, and all that stuff. Yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.